Thank you, Nikita. I'm excited to introduce, Thank you, Nikita. I'm excited to introduce our next session and our speakers. This session will discuss the findings of the study done by Talenomics India called We Scale Success Differentiators for Women Entrepreneurs. We have with us today Dr. Radhika Kapoor, Senior Visiting Fellow at ICRIER. She is a labor economist and has also worked in the Planning Commission and the International Labour Organization, Geneva. Radhika is a study. We have Ms. Uma Reddy, MD of High-Tech Magnetics, one of the successful women entrepreneurs who was covered in the study. She has been associated with Talentnomics, supporting our programs for other women founders. She is involved in many bodies that empower women-led startups. I'm really excited to announce that we are launching this report today. I invite Ipsita Kathuria, the founder and CEO of Talenomics India, to the stage to launch the study. You should be able to find the link to the report in the chat box. Over to you, Ipsita.
Thank you so much, Disha. I'm really delighted to be back here again. What an amazing day yesterday was, and another really enriching session earlier today. I'm absolutely happy to be here to release this report. This is a unique study that we in Talenomics India undertook with the support of Google India. There have been, as you know, a number of reports and discussions around why women fail as entrepreneurs and why it is critical to create more space for women to be successful entrepreneurs. Not only from the point of view of equity, but also equally important, it is that women entrepreneurs have the potential to become engines of growth, especially in India. There is a 2020 Bain and Google report that brings that out very clearly, and which says that if we grow women entrepreneurs, if we invest in women entrepreneurs, they in turn employ and invest a lot more in women, which could actually increase the female labor force participation in India substantially. So if we want to create that equiverse, we need many more women entrepreneurs to succeed. Since we in Talentnomics India are in the business of enabling professional women to succeed, to become leaders of tomorrow, and we have found a pretty successful model to do that in the corporate world, we wanted to help women entrepreneurs also to be able to succeed in their businesses. But before doing that, we wanted to understand more deeply the success differentiators in the entrepreneurial space. What makes a few women succeed in the same environment where many of them fail? As we looked around for data, we did not find enough disaggregated data on women entrepreneurs. We thought the best way to do this study, therefore, was to do it through case studies. And we identified a few women entrepreneurs across South Asia to undertake this report. We were very fortunate that one of the best labor economists of India, Dr. Radhika Kapoor, agreed to undertake this study for us. I thank her and commend her for a fantastic report. As you can see on the screen here. We initiated the study last year. We presented the interim findings in our last conference, I think in December 2021. And here we are with the final report. I want to thank, there are a lot of people to thank for this report, but I want to especially thank Mr. Saurav Srivastava, who has deep knowledge about the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the country. Nikita Singla, who's our MC here today, Sanjay Kathuria, who also is my husband, who guided this study through their knowledge and their contacts in South Asia. I also thank Disha Tripathi, who is also MC here. From our team, she helped coordinate this study and help finalize the report for us. And most importantly, I thank all the successful women entrepreneurs, including Uma, who's sitting here for discussion with Radhika, who gave their time to be part of this study, and all those others who helped us from different countries in South Asia to coordinate with these women entrepreneurs. Last but not the least, I thank Google India for supporting this study. Since Nikita, Disha, Radhika, Uma, some of the key players of this study are here with me today on the stage, I request them in joining me to release this report, which I consider a must-read and must-act report. Thank you all. So now I hand over the floor to Radhika and Uma to take us through the very key interesting findings of this report. Over to you, Radhika.
Thank you so much, Ipsita ma'am. Before I actually dive into the report, a big thank you to Talentonomics for giving me an opportunity to undertake this study on an exceedingly important subject. As you have already shown, and there is a lot of data across the globe that establishes that women are underrepresented in entrepreneurship. Bridging this gap is important because not only will it spur growth, productivity, and innovation and poverty reduction, but also because it will create more employment, particularly for women. Over and above this, however, promoting female entrepreneurship is a very powerful tool of women empowerment in the South Asian region. Indeed, it is possible the increase in female entrepreneurship and agency brought about by fostering entrepreneurship among women will in turn erode restrictive gender norms and reduce the stigma associated with female employment. However, changing the narrative and dealing with some of the biases around female entrepreneurship is not easy. And that is what we're trying to tackle through this study. Changing this narrative requires highlighting stories of role models which can influence career aspirations of women and show that norm deviation is in fact possible. This is precisely what we set out to do, and therefore we identified 20 successful first-generation women entrepreneurs in South Asia. Despite the barriers and challenges they face in the economic, political, patriarchal, and technological environment in South Asia, these women have managed to launch and grow very successful businesses over the last few years, and they have in fact navigated their businesses deftly even through the pandemic. However, getting to this point has not been easy for them. The aim, therefore, through our case studies was to understand the factors that led to their remarkable resilience in an environment which still puts numerous hurdles in the path of businesses owned and managed by women. The approach that we took for this study was of creating what we call an entrepreneur map for each of the selected 21st generation women entrepreneurs. We tracked their journeys from the origins of entrepreneurship to the current moment where they emerged as successful women entrepreneurs. We asked them about the obstacles that they faced in the journey, the key inflection points, what are the factors that enable their success, what is it that gave them the wings to fly. We asked them to contrast their experiences with male entrepreneurs and highlight their future development agenda and advice for future budding women entrepreneurs. As Ipsita ma'am already mentioned, there is a lot of literature in the subject which looks at the key obstacles which are faced by women entrepreneurs. These are well known in the literature, be it in terms of access to finance, to technical and business skills, access to networks, mentors. But over and above this, what really is what can be called a woman exclusive barrier is the social and cultural norms that prevent women from entering entrepreneurship, that prevent them from growing their businesses, and the burden of childcare and household responsibilities that they're expected to carry along as they go about running their businesses. What we try to do through this study, therefore, is looking at these 20 case studies, identify some common factors, common trends that we saw across all these 20 studies to somehow understand if there were some key common factors that had enabled the success of these women. And this is, since the report is already available online, I will just briefly share with you what these common correlates were and put them up on the slide. Right, so what we found in this study was, to begin with, while we were trying to identify these success differentiators, I should mention that there is no one factor that is responsible for the success of these women entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship, as they say, does not occur in vacuum. It is your personality traits, human capital, and environment which weave the entire context for the success of these women entrepreneurs. What we found common, the 7 common traits across all the 20 case studies: education helped all these women see greater entrepreneurial opportunity, overcome barriers, and adapt to changes. All these successful women entrepreneurs, they were educated and trained formally. Either they had advanced degrees or they had acquired skills in their very specific area or sector of operation. The role of the family in understanding the performance of businesses run by women is exceedingly important. We cannot disentangle the woman's business performance from the institution of the family. And here too, we found that all these successful women entrepreneurs, their families played a very important emotional and instrumental role in their career. Very often, if it was not the entire family that was supporting them, there would always be 1 or 2 members in the family who went all out to support them and encourage them to start their business. Interestingly, many of these entrepreneurs that we have interviewed in this study are found to be in sectors which can be classified as non-traditional, sunrise sectors which are typically male-dominated. We don't find these successful women entrepreneurs to actually be in very low productivity, low profitability sectors where typically women entrepreneurs are seen. In terms of the way they go about conducting their business, we also find that these successful women entrepreneurs actually followed a model of structured experimentation, iterative design, and incremental growth. It was not a model of big bang or upfront a huge sunk cost investment that these women undertook. Their growth path of their businesses was very incremental. Next, the role models and the mentors played a very important role in the success of women entrepreneurs. By mentors, in some cases, the mentors were actually operating in the same field that these women entrepreneurs were, but in other cases, they were mentors or role models that they had met in their childhood, some family members who actually inspired these women to go out and be independent. The work experience that these women acquired prior to starting their business also played a crucial role, not just in helping them navigate and build business skills, but also in helping them network and learn to foster networks, which then enable them to grow their business. And finally, while all these factors are important, the last point really highlights that to understand women entrepreneurship, one has to take a multidisciplinary approach. We need to bring in behavioral economics, personality, innate characteristics as well. And these matter tremendously, be it in terms of self-efficacy, sense of curiosity, the ability of these women to adapt and learn through trial and error, strong internal locus of control, and being team builders. So these were some of the key factors that we found that were common across these women entrepreneurs. And I don't want to go through that entire study because there is an executive summary and the document, which has now been loaded on the web. What I do want is actually to speak with Ms. Uma Reddy, who was one of the first people we approached for this study. And it was an absolute delight to interview her and understand her journey to success. Just to give you a very brief background, she's a first-generation technocrat entrepreneur. She's an electrical engineer by training, and she's the managing director of High-Tech Magnetics and Electronics, which is an ISO-certified company that manufactures custom-built transformers, coils, inductors, electronic subassemblies. She has won many awards, including a National Award for Women Entrepreneurs. She has received the Rajyotsava Award in 2005 for her contribution to society. She's been a council member of the Prime Minister's Council for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, and also the National Manufacturing Competitive Council of the Government of India. She's also organized many programs and seminars for MSMEs and women entrepreneurship development in various capacities in many associations. So not only is she an exceedingly successful woman entrepreneur, but she has given back to society to help create a more enabling environment for other women entrepreneurs to succeed. So I cannot actually think of a better candidate for launching this report and highlighting the findings of what we saw. So let me dive straight in, Uma ma'am. You were one of the first people we approached to conduct this study, and you participated enthusiastically. What is it that excited you about this study, and why? What did you think or feel was so important about this study that excited you?
To Radhika for that first question, and thank you, Ipsita, for having the study. More importantly, it's been a great journey with Talentnomics for the past few years, and I love the way Talentnomics is growing and its focus. So I'm actually going to take a point from what Ipsita said in the role of being equiverse. There was a felt need for gender disaggregated data. And I'm with her on it, because we are actually then in an ocean trying to find something. And unless we have data, there's nothing much we can do. And so very important that gender disaggregated data is very little available. And as soon as Ipsita mentioned and we had that talk, I said, yes, we need to do it. And if I don't volunteer to do that, then who else would? And I would want everybody to volunteer and provide that data. I understand it takes time, you have to be with the person, but it's important for the overall system of having gender disaggregated data available. And another point that Ipsita mentioned about was having role models, and I truly believe that, there is a huge need for role models. And that was the second point that I mentioned, because I remember I was part of a training program. I think this was way back in the 90s. And there's a lady who came for, we used to have on the final day, a valedictory session where we give away the certificates for the successful entrepreneurs. And at that point of time, we invite the family members. There was one lady who had come for the training program, and she was a friend of one of the entrepreneurs, one of the potential entrepreneurs who was setting up a business and getting a certificate. And she said, I brought my husband for that meeting, for that program along with me. And I always wanted to start a business, but my husband felt that I would dilute my efforts with the children's studies. And because of which, she always kept negating her to start a business. So when she brought him to that EDP valedictory session, she said, if that lady who was her friend with children can do it, then I can do it. And it was such a small, simple thing. And then after that, of course, the husband did support her, and that's another story. So it's so important that we need to have many role models in many areas. This was one of the very, very simple, small ones, but I'm sure we are all looking at it, because especially when you start a business, you don't really have sounding boards, and you need mentors, you need role models who can actually be a sounding board. And that's all that you need. You sometimes don't need a full guidance or a hand holding, or do you need to know somebody telling you that you're in the right direction? So it's very important that if these events where, you actually showcase successful success stories, share success stories, and be able to provide such data, I think it's crucial and very important that most of us should contribute to being able to share such stories and data. So that's the reason, Radhika.
That's wonderful. And I think that gives me a segue into what I wanted to ask you next, which is that, you work with so many women entrepreneurs. You will be interacting with many of them as they go about starting their business. And not only in India, but in most of South Asia, they face a lot of obstacles in starting their business. You mentioned about the role of family responsibilities. A lot of women are burdened by childcare responsibilities, which makes them hard to do it. But apart from the social norms and the cultural factors, what else do you see as the obstacles that women face? Having interacted with so many of them, obstacles both in starting their business and running their business, and more importantly, trying to expand it over time.
So when you start a business, it's a product or a process or the business idea per se that excites you. You get into it. But you need to sustain that excitement, not only sustain it, help it grow. And what gives you that is when somebody is actually kind of telling you, hey, you're doing great, this is a great product, or somebody actually criticizes it, and then you want to, kind of overbeat it. And to do that, what is really needed, and I really find that is much more than self-motivation, is being part of networks. And as women entrepreneurs, it gets very difficult because of the many hats that we wear to be part of networks. You want to get back home in the evenings because you have a responsibility at home with an elderly person or a caretaker of your child, whatever the reason. So quite often as women, it doesn't matter whether you're entrepreneurs, every entrepreneurial women goes through this dilemma of, being able to be part of networks. And most networking meetings happen in the evening after working hours, right? Especially the ones which are part of the mainstream, where there are men and women. So it gets very difficult at the beginning of your career and your enterprise to find time for both networking, running your business and your family, because all three require equal, if not, priority focus, and nothing can be less. So I think, technology has now provided that opportunity to be part of virtual networks, to be part of WhatsApp groups, to be part of, where you can manage to be part of networks. So I think as an entrepreneur, as a woman, I think you have to focusedly think about being part of networks, whether it's social media networks, whether it's any kind of network, because that provides that if she can do it, I can do it. Somebody comes and tells you, you know what, this year I made 100 crore turnover. Now that inspires you, you want to do that. You say, if she can do it, why don't I? And somebody who's thinking of, okay, quite often women, we tend to get complacent. Okay, we are quite happy running our business at a certain level, managing our home and our social networks. We felt, okay, this is good. I'm able to manage. I don't have problems. But what excites you is when somebody says that, and suddenly somebody gets a recognition, and then you say, if she can do it, I want to do it. Or even if it's not there, it's there at the back of your mind when something comes up, or you start thinking of new diversifications, and you figure out, it's not that everything you need to do it yourself. You start looking at, okay, then can I delegate this job to something else and be able to outsource this work? So, the ideas start coming. And the whole thing is, we all need to loud think. And that comes only with such networks. You want to meet people, and need not be it's a woman only. It can be a man who's doing something great. And, you say, hey, that's easy. Even I can take it on. And those are areas. So I think very, very key to anybody's, I would say career growth or entrepreneurial success would be being part of networks, because they act like a good push and a pull, which you used in your book.
So actually that, is also one of the key common factors that we talked about a lot in the report, the importance of network. And I think more so because, we've talked about inadequate access to financial capital, to human capital, but very often having access to social capital through networks can help overcome some of the disadvantages that women might be facing in terms of access to finance or skills and so on. So, networking is exceedingly important in the case of women. And I can see that that's one finding in our report that resonated with you based on all your interactions. But also, ma'am, in terms of like your own personal journey, you are a force to reckon with in a male-dominated sector. And that's something which I highlighted in my findings as well, that, women who cross over male-dominated sectors are likely to perform well and outperform, compared to women who are in low profitability, low productivity sectors. But in general, when you reflect back on your journey, what do you think were the key factors that enabled your success? Of the 7-8 factors that we put up there on the slide, which are the ones that you really connect with?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible now. We lost.
I think the screen went blank for some time. Key points in this, I would say, is there is an advantage. There's also a disadvantage. And I would actually talk about the advantage part of it is that you are one of the very few who are in a male-dominated space. So the fact that you will be recognized for it when you're starting a business, and there are very, very few women, is that there comes a point that, out of the many hundreds of men that are there, there's somebody who knows, oh yeah, she's Uma Reddy, she's running this business. So that's a good point. When you go to meet, they know who you are. There is an authenticity that comes about it. So that's the real advantage. So, you can make forays into it, but there is also a kind of, I won't say a disadvantage, but as women, and this is something which in my journey of over 3 decades, I can say that we as women need to constantly prove ourselves. It's never that, the product or the service can speak for itself, 100%, especially when you're dealing with clients, they always want to give you a very, very small order. They know you are very efficient. They know you are good, but they will never bet their, $1 million on you, and give you the full order and say, done it. It somehow doesn't happen. And I just can't pinpoint and say this is the reason. And there are many times that I still get calls to date after being in business that they call me up and they say, can you connect me to your technical person? The fact that they think I'm a non-technical person. So these are two very distinct start, and there is continuity that male clients have on women entrepreneurs is still low. But yes, at the end of the day, it's your perseverance, your self-motivation, your excitement to do, and your ensuring that you're able to maintain your deliveries and your costs as per schedule is very, very important. And once you're doing that, then it's kind of okay. And so you sustain the business. But that's when you see very few women leapfrogging and being that, you hardly have any women entrepreneurs who are at that scale of business. They're very far and few. We have many in the small scale sector, but not really in the medium and the large. So probably more studies are needed to understand that a bit more better.
Yes, I think that, the point that you make about leapfrogging is very important, because you might find a lot of women entrepreneurs were successful in the sense that their businesses witnessed very high growth, but they remain in that SME category. There are really very few women, and we experienced this even while we were trying to identify candidates for the study. I mean, how many first generation women entrepreneurs you really find in that large
right.
That's a very important point. And I do want to highlight to the audience here that, all the case studies that we have undertaken in this report are first generation. They are not women who have inherited family businesses it's a legacy business, but they're all women who have started their businesses from scratch. So, ma'am, while we're still on the question of success differentiators and getting your thoughts on what are the findings, we have an interesting question that has come from the audience, and I'll pose it to you right now. I think it'll be a good time. Can women make up for certain differentiators in other ways? For instance, if one doesn't have a supportive family, is there how can one possibly make up it?
Yeah, sure. I completely agree that you have to find other talents to manage when you don't have support from the family. And I'll give my own story very quickly. That at the beginning of when I started my business, I was unmarried. I started my business when I was in my final year of engineering. So I was in college, all the excitement to do the business. But and immediately after engineering, I got married. And then my husband's family, as soon as I got married, were more conservative. And my mother-in-law also felt that my priority was my home. Okay. And I needed to ensure that, the chapatis were ready in the evening. And there were many days I went back home late and I had quite a problem on those, quite a lot of issues and discussions. Mm-hmm. But when I came back in the morning to my business, I think I forgot about home. I was so excited about what I was doing that it was only when I reached home that, the whole rigmarole would start. So I did not get any support from the family at the beginning. Of course, my dad and my mom were encouraging, but there were another set of people who were not encouraging me, and they felt that my prime position was to be at home and take care, and that those were the things. But it takes time, it's very easy to let go and say, you start finding ways and mechanisms. So, and in a few years, I received the Women Entrepreneurs Award. And I made it a point to take my mother-in-law for that reward. And there was a sea change in her behavior after that. Suddenly, she became very proud of me. Till then, I was another one who would get up in the morning and rush to work, not bothered about the house. And I would come back late in the evening, not bothered about the home really. And I would get up in the morning and go. Suddenly, I was a person whom she could proudly talk about in her circle of friends and relatives. So to make that shift and to make them understand what you're doing is very important. It's for you to change. Everybody can have their thoughts and ideas. So sometimes you don't have anybody who will support you at all, but you find others, you find friends, you always flock to people who are guiding you, who are criticizing the work in your interest, but not you as a person. So you find such mentors. And in this day and age, we have lots of such mentors. And I really feel, as entrepreneurs, you should look for them. You don't always have it on a platter, everything. Everything has its ups and downs. So you have to figure it out. And that's my point.
As you're describing this whole thing, and of course, we've spoken before because we've done your case study in great detail. This is one question I didn't get an opportunity to ask you. I mean, when you look back and I listen to everything you're saying, it's been a struggle. It's been full of a lot of disappointments and failures at times. You talked about how, you still struggle to get sometimes large orders because people don't have that faith of giving a woman-led business a large order. You have to keep proving yourself. It's a very, very hard journey. It requires a lot of resilience, a lot of hard work, determination, all of which you have displayed. But what is it that it really then takes in this entire journey that women have to go through to become successful entrepreneurs, to sort of, retain their mental sanity? And what do you do for your mental well-being? And this is also a question that somebody's, posed in the panel, that how do you keep yourself self-motivated? Do you have any tips on taking care of mental well-being?
So I think it's different for different people, personally. But, we as women, we have one gene which is very good with us and we have to make use of it. That's multitasking. Okay. We're very good at multitasking. I find it all the time very difficult with my husband when he says, I have to finish this to do something else in his own work. But as we are very good at multitasking. So, right. So we are able to manage many things at a time and take use of that opportunity of being able to, that you're able to plan your day. At the end of the day, you need to be good. You need to be happy. You need to be, healthy to take care of both your business, your family, and all your many activities. So you need to make that time for yourself, come what, may. And those are areas that you need to focus. So one good entrepreneurial trait that somebody should have is you have to be a good planner. You need to plan your day. You need to prioritize. You need to find that lesson to do your work, at the same time be able to manage. And that we can very easily do as women entrepreneurs, as women per se.
So on that point that you said, so what advice do you give to young budding women entrepreneurs? And I recall you mentioning to me that your own daughter has started her own business, right? So
Right.
when you look at her, and of course the environment today is completely different from, perhaps not completely, but substantially better and perhaps more encouraging for women to start businesses than it was when you started. What advice do you give her or to other young budding women entrepreneurs?
So we have a great ecosystem right now. I would love to have been born, in this era. We've gone through very, very difficult times in those days when we were a closed economy. But I'd love to be born now, because it's, there's quite a time I look back and I say, I really wish I had the, many years ahead of me to, start the business, start all these new activities on AI and, the technology that provides that kind of excitement. At the same time, I think to do anything, it has to be passion, sheer passion and perseverance. You want to achieve it, it's your passion. You want to make it happen, it's your perseverance. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but just a lot of common sense and going at it, you can make a success out of it. So to your young entrepreneurs, you have a great platform. You have great support systems. I don't think I knew the spelling of the word entrepreneur or the word mentor when I started, but I'm very excited about the way things happen, having these virtual events, virtual products and services. So I think you all are the best of times, and great to be in India at this particular time when, you see this excitement in terms of business opportunities. So I'm sure the next gen is like there for it. So just go ahead with your passion in your belly and persevere and make a success. That's all I can say.
So what you're pointing out are very innate characteristics. They're all, personality characteristics in the sense that these women have to cultivate to remain resilient and survive through this incredibly hard journey of entrepreneurship. But on the other side, there is also what the external environment can do for you. And here, you have been involved in supporting a part of various women entrepreneurship programs, training programs. You've been involved through various industry bodies and councils in these programs. What would you like to, from a policy perspective, what would you like to see the governments doing, be it at the central level or the state level, to create a more enabling environment for entrepreneurship? And then, besides governments, what role can the private sector also play? Because at the end of it, this will have to be a collaborative effort. Fostering a conducive environment for women entrepreneurs to grow and succeed will be a collaborative effort between governments and the private sector. So from the policy side, from the external perspective, what do you think can be done? You have a lot of experience.
Yeah, very good. So good question. Let me start with the policy in terms of Government of India. Okay. We do have a Ministry of MSME, and I also agree that business per se is mainstream business. I can't say I'm a woman entrepreneur, I'm going to sell my products. Okay, we are part of platform. At the same time, we do support women entrepreneurs to face, be it access to finance, challenges that women entrepreneurs face. So what we do have is a Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise. We have another Ministry for Women and Child Development, which is very focused on social welfare activities. What we do not have is in the Ministry of my MSMEs, have a department for women entrepreneurship development. We don't have that. We have a few schemes for women entrepreneurs. It's like, okay, there is a industrial park coming up and, 5% we'll allocate to women-owned enterprises, or there is a 2% subsidy. I don't think that's what we are really looking at. It can be in an industrial park. 90 of them can take, women entrepreneurs can take 90% of them can take the industries as long as the, projects are good. So I don't think we should look at that. And I think a policy should be to support women entrepreneurs per se, not give these small percentages of 2% and 5%. And you need to have a department that recognizes it, a whole-fledged department, the same in Government of India, the same in Government of Karnataka or in all the state governments. The second thing is policy practice gap. You have policies, the banks come out with so many schemes, but where is the implementation? How much of it has actually reached women entrepreneurs? So how do they build about awareness for women entrepreneurs to actually, access these schemes? We keep saying, no, that we have to be part of networks. Why? Because quite often women entrepreneurs in their silos have no idea that there is such a scheme around. Media websites and all are there, but in the huge data, it's very difficult to find it. So it's very important that, access to. So which is one of the reasons why I said that women entrepreneurs should be part of networks. They need to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce. They need to be a member of the women entrepreneur networks. You take different things from each of these organizations, and that's important. So like, for example, the Federation of Karnataka Chamber of Commerce in Karnataka, or we have FICCI in Delhi. I'm part of those networks. One, because not only do we access what we want, but it's also gives you the macro understanding of what is happening. Sometimes you start small enterprise, you don't know what is happening, and that provides that opportunity to actually listen to, entrepreneurs talking the micro business structures. And then you're part of the smaller networks of just women entrepreneur networks. Sometimes it's a learning opportunity, it's a training program on digital marketing or whatever. At the same time, it's an opportunity for bonhomie. Say, I also have the same problem, she also has the same problem. Sometimes it's very nice to know that, and then you find solutions between us. So I think it's very important, very, very important to be part of networks, to be part of these, and policies will come in only when we represent as a group. And when you're part of these networks, and many women actually come about seeking such policies support, it happens. But there are many, many of them.
So now I have my last question, because you pointed repeatedly the role of networks. You've highlighted the role of policy, the private sector. You've been affiliated with Talentonomics for a very, very long time, and they have funded this study and organized it. So what do you see as, the role of Talentonomics, now organizations like Talentonomics, in fostering women entrepreneurship today? Because in some sense, they are uniquely positioned to motivate a lot of young women. They've been organizing the V-Scale program. So where do you see, they can step in to help in this?
So from the many programs that I have been part of with Talentonomics, what I really see is here is an organization that one has the capacity to actually provide data literally. And here is an organization who is actually finding the time to do the studies, to actually put up this data up there. And that's very important. And it kind of promotes a lot more of entrepreneurship in the process. So I think Talentonomics has a huge, and policies will come only if there is data available. And that data, I really see it with Talentonomics, provides a lot of thought-provoking discussions in the process. And we've had quite a few with the corporate sector, with with just women entrepreneurs, and now the study. So I think there's a great opportunity for Talentonomics to be present in many places. I remember the first time I met up with Ipsita in Bangalore, and we've come a long way, actually, and Talentonomics has really come up a long way. And I'm sure they've got great work to do. We'll be happy to be part of it at all times.
Great. This is, actually the perfect note to end on. It's been wonderful speaking with you, ma'am. I've got the opportunity to do so twice. And I think every time I've spoken to you, you've highlighted and brought in new perspectives on the subject. And again, I'm just going to say that thank Talentonomics again for conducting this study, giving me an opportunity to do this, but also all these women to participate, narrate their stories, and hopefully inspire many younger women to turn to entrepreneurship and create better jobs for more women in South Asia. So thank you so much. And I turn the floor back.
So much. And thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Ipsita. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you, Radhika. And thank you, Uma, for the wonderful discussion and insights into the study. And to Ipsita for launching the study. This study has brought some great perspective, and we hope budding entrepreneurs, especially women, can identify the differentiators that will enable them to reach greater heights of success. Before we move on to the next session, I would like to thank our platinum partner Hilti for their support with the conference. And Nikita should be with you shortly.